Here's a presentation on the importance of branding regarding music acts and music videos. Here is a list of the artists with the most amount of number ones in the UK, and that's Elvis Presley, the Beatles, Westlife, Cliff Richard and Madonna. So we're going to look at Elvis Presley, who was nicknamed the King of Rock and Roll. His brand consisted of rock and roll behaviour on stage, and his good looks and the way he dressed had never really been seen before in a music act. He also had aggressive rock songs, but on the other end of the scale he had love ballads, which means he pleased a very large sized audience, and this helped him record 21 number ones in the UK. And the Beatles are second. They were nicknamed the Fab Four, and they enjoyed a reputation for being four friends, and teenagers at the time would have a favourite Beatle, even some adults would, and this started Beatlemania, which was a craze that saw thousands of teenagers become obsessed and launched them to becoming the biggest act in the world at the time. They all wore similar clothes and had their hair cut in the same style. And we're going to look at Westlife now. They enjoyed a reputation, and they still do, for being the boys next door, and they appeal to a female audience, and they've got the same number of number ones as Cliff Richard, which is 14. So now we're going to look at Cliff Richard, who started off years ago as a rock and roll singer and then became a Christian, and his music became a lot more pop orientated, and he shaped a image of being the nice guy of the music industry, and he got himself a knighthood, and just like Westlife, 14 number ones. And just under 14 number ones was Madonna, who recorded 13 number ones, and she was famous for only having one name as a stage name, and throughout her career, as she's grown older, she's reinvented her style and matured herself as an act. So we're going to look at all of this stuff and see what we've learned, and we can tell that all of these acts have a big brand to help them sell their music. But what we have to remember is branding doesn't stop here, and this is where pictures of the bands and album covers come into the equation. So we have to look at what we're aiming to achieve with our brand, and who do we need to accept and influence with our brand. So we've got the Venn diagram here with audience, selling point and uniqueness in it, and we'll look at these one by one. So first of all, we'll have a look at audience. Now the audience for our band would be age 17 to 23 years old, be indie rock fans, probably male, enjoy bands such as the Kings of Leon and the Kooks, and of course the Arctic Monkeys, who recorded the song that we're using in our music video. It's a bit of a party song, but it's not really a song you can dance to, but it revolves around a party atmosphere. And the band aren't the best musicians, but they're good songwriters, and that's helped them become famous via the internet. So next we're going to look at uniqueness, and we're going to have a look at what our band has that no other band will. So hopefully with this we'll get a dedicated fan base. We really have to concentrate on what our band's wearing, how the sound is different, how the logo's different, and that also goes hand in hand with the fonts used, because bands such as Metallica and Kiss and AC/DC have a font that you can see and you will know immediately that the person is talking about that band or it's a product related to that band. And with our album cover, we really wanted a fresh idea, or as close to a fresh idea as we could get. So next we're going to look at the selling point, and with this we're going to look at the image of the band, and there's a motto that boys want to be them and girls want to be with them. We're going to have to look at the band's colour scheme, possibly a fashion that the fans want to copy, and that goes along with hairstyles, and also the attitude the band portrays. They really have to get into a frame of mind that the fans can recognise. Okay, so once these three move back into their circles, we're going to have a look at this, and this is the thing that is a compromise between all three of these, a hybrid of all three of these ideas. And first we're going to have to look at we're going to have to concentrate mainly on what font we should use, because this is the thing that will gain our band's instant recognition with the fans. So I've used a mock-up band name here, the Trees of Happiness, and we really have to see how the font looks on an album cover. So here we have 6 examples. Each one goes on the album cover, and we really have to see what kind of mood the font will portray with the album cover looking the way it does. So we're going to have to look at what we don't notice. This is something that, unless you've really looked into it a lot, you won't realise is happening. But here we have 2 examples, which are Marilyn Manson and the Spice Girls, which obviously are 2 completely opposite ends of the spectrum. But before we even know anything about these acts, we can tell that they're opposite sides of the spectrum. And that's because of the colours used on each album, and the fact that the Spice Girls album has these big, bold, colourful letters, and Marilyn Manson has these dark, contrasting colours that really show an evil image, which is what he is famous for and what his market is so successful for. And the same can be said about the Spice Girls, that they've got such an important market with teenage girls and girls that are younger than that. So we'll go into a deeper analysis of the Marilyn Manson cover. It's dark and it's got an almost unforgiving edge to it. The blackness of the background is the central theme, and it's almost a warning or a caution to the listener that this is what they're getting themselves in for by listening to this. And another, although it's not part of the album design, something else we have to look at is the parental advisory sticker, which obviously you wouldn't see on a Spice Girls album, and that just shows the adult edge to Marilyn Manson's music. And then also we'll have a look at the Spice Girls album here. It looks almost as if they're trying to make their audience as wide as possible. They've got the 5 members all dressed to look like a certain audience that you might see in the crowd, and they're really trying to gain as many fans as they can, which has got them a lot of success over the years. So what we have to decide is where our band comes on this spectrum. So if we take the Spice Girls as one end and Marilyn Manson as the other, where in the middle would we be? We don't really want to come across as aggressive and evil, if you will, but we also don't want to show a pure and happy image, because that might not sell as well as it used to. But maybe we should take a completely different approach altogether, and these are some colourful album covers that include the Sex Pistols, Nirvana, Thin Lizzy, the Beatles and the Monkees, just to name a few. And that's just something to think about, whilst we also look at these band logos, which these are some of the most famous bands that have ever recorded albums, and every single one of these logos is recognisable. This is the same logo you'll see on albums and t-shirts and tickets if you go to one of their shows, and it just helps you sell your band. And next we'll be looking at our band. So we've got the logo, the font and the image, and all of these have to be carefully planned, and we have to make sure that they correlate from one image to the other. So if we look at merchandise, that will have to have the same logo on it as an album cover, for example. And that's the entire presentation.